The Queen's unbeatable championate was the biggest night of the year on the planet Valera, a world where every citizen lived for glory, power, and the thrill of the arena. The Queen's Grand Tournament only happened once every cycle, and this time the seats were full, the lights burning bright, and the air humming with excitement. Nobody could remember a single time when the Queen's champion had lost. She was known as the strongest, the bravest, and some whispered, the most beautiful fighter the stars had ever seen. She wore golden armor that shone like the dawn, and her long silver hair moved behind her like a wave. Tonight, the Queen herself sat at the very top, her crown sparkling. She waved her hand, and silence swept through the crowd. The Queen's voice was cold but proud as it rang through the speakers. This is the day our champion will defend the honor of Valera. Tonight, anyone from any world may challenge her. If you win, your wish will be granted. If you lose, you will leave and never return. The crowd roared, eager for blood and spectacle. Fighters from many worlds had tried in the past, but all had failed. Some had gone home broken, others had never gone home at all. The champion always stood above them, never even breathing hard. The Queen glanced at her champion, smiling secretly. Her plan was simple: show her people their champion could not be defeated. Remind the universe that Valera was unbreakable. Then, as the noise faded, a single voice spoke. "I'll fight." At first, nobody could tell where it came from. The crowd began to murmur. Out from the shadows stepped a figure not tall, not bulky, not alien at all. Just a human. He wore no armor. Just simple travel clothes and a tool belt. His hair was messy and there was dirt on his face. Some in the crowd laughed. Others frowned, thinking it was a trick. The Queen's champion studied the human with curious, sharp eyes, as if trying to decide if he was brave or just foolish. The Queen raised an eyebrow. "State your name, challenger." The human spoke calmly. "My name doesn't matter. I'm just here for the challenge." Whispers flew through the crowd. No human had ever dared to stand in this arena. Most thought humans were weak, clever with machines, but useless in a fight. The champion seemed almost disappointed, as if she wanted a real test. The Queen, enjoying the show, leaned forward and said, "Very well. But remember, you lose. You must leave Valera forever. If you win, my champion must grant your wish, no matter what it is." The human nodded, unafraid. The fight was to begin. The crowd watched with hungry eyes. The champion stepped into the ring, her armor shining, muscles ready. The human carried nothing but a small device in his hand, some odd creation he'd made himself. It looked almost like a toy. The Queen smiled, confident in her plan. The bell sounded. The champion moved first, her speed shocking even the human, who dodged just in time. The floor shook with each of her steps. She attacked with perfect skill. Every move practiced 1,000 times. The human did not fight back. He dodged, weaved, and stayed light on his feet, studying her. The crowd began to boo, wanting to see a real battle. The human looked for patterns, for weaknesses, and he soon found one. The champion always shifted her weight before her strongest attacks. He started using this, letting her miss him by inches. The champion grew annoyed, her face showing frustration for the first time. The Queen's fingers tightened on her throne. Suddenly, the human pressed a button on his device. A puff of harmless blue smoke appeared, confusing the champion for half a second. It was enough. He rolled beneath her arm and tapped her side. The arena judges blinked. In the rules, a clean strike counted, and the champion had been touched. The crowd fell silent, then broke into angry shouting. The champion turned, shocked and angry. The Queen's plan was no longer going as expected. Her champion was struggling, not with strength, but with the human's clever mind. The champion attacked again, faster, harder, but the human's strange device distracted her, letting him dodge once more. It was clear to everyone now, this was not going to be a normal fight. As the first round ended, the human stood tall, breathing hard, but smiling. The champion stared at him, and for the first time, the queen's confidence wavered. No one in the galaxy could guess what would happen next. The fight, and the fate of Valera's pride, was only just beginning. The unlikely battle begins. The arena was still buzzing from the shock of the first round. No one had expected the human to last even a minute against the queen's champion. Yet, he had survived more than that. He had outsmarted her, using nothing but quick thinking and a strange little device that made blue smoke. The audience was restless now, a mix of laughter, anger, and growing curiosity. The queen, high on her throne, tried to hide her concern with a cold smile. She sent a silent signal to her champion. "End this quickly." The champion nodded, understanding. She had never lost before. Her pride was hurt by the human's clever tricks. As she stepped forward, her eyes were sharper, her movements more focused. She would show everyone that no outsider, especially not a human, could defeat her. The human stood quietly, studying her. He did not look afraid, only thoughtful. His hand gripped the small device, and his eyes never left the champion's face. Around him, the crowd shouted insults and bets, certain the next round would be over in seconds. The bell sounded for round 2. The champion moved first lightning fast. She charged across the arena, swinging her arm with strength that could crush stone. The human barely managed to roll aside. The ground cracked where her fist landed. Dust flew up around them. The crowd roared, but the human was already moving, staying low and out of reach. He kept circling, forcing the champion to chase him. It looked almost silly, a game of cat and mouse. But the champion was getting angrier with every missed attack. She tried to corner him, but he slipped away. She tried to catch him, but he always found a way out. The queen's hands clenched on her throne. She had promised the galaxy an easy victory. Now she watched her strongest fighter chase a human like a child chasing a shadow. Then, suddenly, the human stopped running. He waited, breathing hard, letting the champion get close. She took the bait, lunging forward with all her power. The human dropped to one knee and pressed his device to the ground. There was a quick flash of light. The champion's armor made a strange humming sound and locked up just for a split second, but enough. She stumbled, her arms frozen. The human jumped up, tapped her shoulder, and stepped back as her armor powered down. The judges saw it. Another point for the human. The arena exploded into noise cheers from some, outrage from others. The champion broke free from her armor's glitch and spun around, her face red with anger and embarrassment. She had never been touched in combat before. Now, twice in one night, this human had scored points against her. The queen's face was tight with anger, but she kept silent. Unwilling to show weakness before her people, the champion realized brute force wouldn't win. She switched tactics, moving slower, thinking more. She studied the human's movements, the way he used the arena's space, how he watched her feet, not her eyes. The champion started to respect her opponent just a little. Maybe he was not as weak as she had believed. The next exchange was quick and dangerous. The champion feinted left, then right, trying to trick the human. He almost fell for it, but at the last second, he jumped back. She tried to grab him, but he twisted free, landing behind her. The crowd gasped. The queen's anger grew. This was not the show of power she had planned. Then, the champion spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm but strong. "You're not here to win gold or fame. What do you really want, human?" The human answered softly, just loud enough for her to hear. "I want to prove something, not just to you, to everyone." The champion did not know what to say. For a moment, she almost smiled. But the fight was not over. With a sudden burst of energy, the champion launched herself at the human. This time not with fists, but with open arms, trying to pin him, end it by sheer will. The human dodged, but the champion caught his sleeve. For a moment, they struggled, the crowd holding its breath. Then, using the champion's own weight, the human flipped her over his shoulder. She landed hard, surprised but unhurt. The judges counted another clean point. The queen's face was pale with rage. The champion sat up, staring at the human, now breathing hard herself. Around them, the arena was stunned into silence. For the first time, doubt filled the eyes of the people of Valeera. A human was winning, and no one knew how this fight would end. A humiliating defeat. The night air inside the arena grew tense. The alien crowd was restless, no longer just shouting or laughing, but watching every movement, every breath. They had come to see their champion destroy a foolish human. Instead, they saw something none of them had expected. For the first time, the champion's golden armor looked heavy on her. Her movements, usually so quick and perfect, were slowing. She wasn't tired, but frustration had started to cloud her mind. The queen could feel the change. Her plan, so perfect in her mind, was falling apart in front of everyone. Still, she refused to admit defeat. She sent a sharp signal from her. Thrown a flick of her hand. It meant, "End this now." The champion nodded. Her face became cold and unreadable. The bell rang for the next round. The champion moved with deadly speed. Closing the gap between her and the human in a flash, she swung. A powerful fist, but the human ducked low, rolling to the side. The crowd gasped. The champion tried again, this time throwing a spinning kick, her signature move. The human used the tool at his belt to fire a flash of light, blinding her for an instant. She stumbled, but not far. Her instincts were too strong. But the human never tried to fight with force. He watched, he waited, he learned. Now he saw that the champion always led with her right, that her kicks left her open on the left side. So he let her attack, dodging again and again, until finally swung too wide in one smooth motion. The human trapped her arm and flipped her to the ground. The whole arena went silent. It happened so fast that even the judges were confused. Was that a legal move? Was the human allowed to do that? But the rules were clear. Anyone who could put the champion down fairly would win the point. The queen stood up, her face turning red with anger. "Get up," she shouted. The champion got to her knees, panting. For the first time, her hair was messy, her eyes wide. She looked at the human not with hatred, but with new respect and a little fear. She had never been brought low in public before. She had never been shown weakness in front of her people. Still, the champion would not give up. She pushed herself up and attacked again, faster and more wild than before. Her attacks came in a blur: a punch, a kick, a sweep. The human dodged and twisted, letting her tire herself out. He saw that her anger was making her clumsy. Then the human did something no one expected. He dropped his tool and raised his empty hands. The champion paused, confused. In that moment, the human spoke softly. "You're not my enemy. You're just following orders. But I'm here because I believe everyone should have a choice, even you." The champion frowned, her guard dropping for just a second. The human used that moment, stepped in, and gently tapped her on the shoulder. Another point. The crowd began to murmur. Was this human magic? Or just smarter than everyone else? The queen was furious. She shouted at her guards, but they could do nothing. The rules of the challenge could not be broken in public. The final round came. The champion, now desperate, tried everything she knew. She used her most dangerous moves, even tricks she had never revealed before. But the human kept his promise. He never attacked to hurt. He dodged, he blocked, and he waited for her to tire. At last, with one last effort, the champion rushed at him, ready to crush him. But she tripped on her own feet, exhausted. The human caught her, steadying her so she would not fall. The judges blew the final whistle. It was over. The champion, the pride of Valeera, had lost. A human had won. The arena exploded. Some aliens shouted in anger. Some were too shocked to speak. Others, the younger ones, started to cheer for the human. Amazed by his strange style and quiet courage, the queen was forced to step down onto the arena floor. Her voice trembled with anger as she declared, "The human is the winner." As promised, my champion must grant him one wish, whatever it may be. The champion knelt before the human, her head low, not just in shame, but in a strange new respect. The human looked at her, then at the queen, then at the crowd. He spoke, "I do not want gold. I do not want power. My wish is simple." He paused, letting the suspense grow. Everyone waited, breath held. "My wish," he said, "is for your champion to become my bride." The crowd gasped. The queen's eyes widened in shock and fury. Even the champion froze, stunned by the words. But a promise was a promise. The story was far from over. Tonight, everything had changed on VA Lyra. The impossible, wishy-washy, stunned silence hung over the arena. For a moment, no one moved. The queen's champion for her strength, beauty, and pride was kneeling on the sand, her golden armor dulled and scratched. All eyes turned to the human, whose quiet voice had changed everything. The queen was the first to react. Her sharp voice echoed in the open air. You wish for my champion to become your bride." Her words were bitter, almost mocking, as if she expected the human to change his mind. But the human nodded, his eyes gentle but unshakable. "Yes, that is my wish. Let her be free from fighting only for you. Let her have a life and a choice." The queen's face turned pale, then red. She was used to giving orders, not obeying them. She glanced at her advisors, hoping for a way out. But the rules were clear and made for all to see. Her own pride had set the trap, and now she was caught in it. To break her word in front of her people would show weakness. And weakness in Valeera's court was more dangerous than any enemy. The champion was still kneeling, her mind whirling. She had lost everything in one night, her unbeaten record, her honor, her role as the queen's favorite. Now, this human, who had fought her with kindness and cleverness instead of anger and hate, was asking her to become his bride. The idea seemed impossible, almost a joke. Yet, as she looked into his eyes, she saw no laughter, only honest respect. The queen forced herself to speak again. Her words were heavy, but she could not break her promise. "So be it. My champion will keep the vow. The marriage will happen at dawn. Until then, you are both under royal protection. Anyone who dares to harm you will answer to me." There was a strange twist in the queen's voice, a warning, and perhaps a hidden threat. She turned and swept from the arena, her loyal guards following close behind. The crowd remained silent. No one dared speak until the queen was gone. Then, whispers filled the air. Some aliens were angry. How could a human take the champion as his bride? Others were excited, sensing history changing in front of their eyes. A few, the youngest, saw something else: hope, maybe even freedom. The champion stood up slowly. Her muscles ached, her pride even more. She faced the human, her voice quiet but strong. "Why did you wish for this? Was it just to humiliate me?" The human shook his head. "No, you are not a trophy. I watched you fight. I saw you follow every order, never thinking of yourself. I wanted you to have a choice for once, even if it means becoming my bride. But if you refuse me after the vow, I will let you go. All I wanted was to show that strength is more than power." The champion did not reply at first. She did not trust kindness from strangers. All her life, she had known only battles, training, and duty. No one had ever asked what she wanted. No one had dared. The royal guards approached, faces blank and weapons ready. "You must come," said the captain. "The queen wishes you both kept safe until morning. Follow us." The walk to the palace was long and silent. Alien nobles watched from behind curtains. Children peeked through doorways. Even servants stopped working to stare. The human walked with quiet dignity. The champion, still in her battered armor, kept her head high, refusing to show fear. They were led to a grand hall, full of light and ancient banners. A royal servant brought food, but neither felt hungry. The champion sat alone, her thoughts running wild. The human sat across the room, watching but not intruding. Finally, as the sky outside grew darker, the champion spoke. "What is it like, freedom?" Her voice was shaky, unused to such words. The human smiled softly. "It means you can choose your own path. Even if you make mistakes, they are your mistakes. No one owns you." The champion thought of all the years she had lived for others, the queen, the crowds, her own legend. She looked at her hands, still trembling from the fight. Could she really be free? A heavy knock came at the door. A servant entered, bowing deeply. "The queen demands your presence at sunrise. You will be married in front of the whole court. Until then, no one may see you." The servant left. The champion felt a cold wave of fear. She was not afraid of pain or danger. She was afraid of a future she had never imagined. That night, she lay awake, staring at the strange ceiling. The human slept on a far bench, quiet as a shadow. When she finally closed her eyes, her dreams were filled with wild battles. The roar of the arena, and at the very end, a soft voice, asking if she was ready for her own life to begin. Dawn would come soon. And with it, a new fate, one she could never have planned. The bride's struggle. Dawn crept over the city of Valeera, painting golden lines across the palace walls. In the royal guest chamber, the champion stood at the window, watching the first light. She had not slept. Her thoughts spun like a storm. All her life she had been trained to win, to never show fear, to obey the queen without question. Now, in a single night, everything was upside down. A soft knock on the door startled her. It was the human, carrying a cup of warm tea, I thought. "You might need this," he said gently, setting it down nearby. The champion hesitated, then took the cup with careful hands. She drank in silence, watching him. He seemed so calm, so ordinary compared to the chaos in her heart. "They will call for us soon," the human said, voice low. "Are you afraid?" She looked at him, surprised by the question. No one had ever cared about her feelings before. She was supposed to be the symbol of courage. "I am not afraid of battle," she said slowly, "but I do not know how to live for myself. I do not know what it means to be someone's bride or to have a choice." The human nodded with quiet understanding. "You have always belonged to others. Today, everything can change, if you want." A deep, nervous silence fell between them. Soon, royal guards arrived. "The queen is waiting," said the captain. The champion and the human followed, side by side, through long marble halls filled with curious eyes. Nobles whispered behind jeweled fans. Servants bowed deeply. Some faces were angry, others awed. Most were just confused. At the throne room doors, the champion paused. "Before we go in, tell me, why did you choose this? You could have wished for riches or power." The human answered softly, Because you deserve a chance to choose your own life. Even if you hate me, I wanted you to be free from being a tool for someone else. The champion felt something strange inside, a quiet hope, mixed with fear. She had never been offered such kindness. No one in her world ever spoke about freedom. The heavy doors opened, and sunlight flooded the room. The queen sat on her throne, surrounded by nobles, soldiers, and advisors. She looked angry, but her voice was smooth and cold. Let the ceremony begin. The champion walked down the aisle in her battered golden armor, proud but uncertain. The human walked beside her, calm and steady. The crowd watched, holding their breath. The queen's priest spoke the old words. Do you, champion of Valeera, accept this human as your husband? The champion's voice shook as she replied, I will try. If it is my choice, I will try. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. The queen's eyes narrowed. The priest turned to the human. Do you accept the champion as your bride? He nodded. Yes, not as a prize, but as a person. I promise to let her choose her path. It was done. The queen gave a sharp wave of her hand, ending the ceremony. She stood, her face hard as stone. It is finished. My champion is no longer bound to me. She almost spat the words. The nobles murmured, some in anger, others in awe. After the ceremony, the queen called the champion aside. Her words were sharp and cold. You shamed me. You let a human take you. But know this, you are no longer protected by my name. If you fail, do not come crawling back. The champion stood tall. I will not crawl, your majesty. I will walk my own path, as you once taught me, just not the way you wanted. The queen turned away, leaving her alone. The palace servants led the newlyweds to their own quarters, a small set of rooms high in a sunlit tower. The champion sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing her armor. The human sat across from her, giving her space. She stared at the floor, feeling lost. I do not know what to do, she whispered. The human replied, you don't have to know. Yet, for the first time, you are free to choose. They spent the day in silence. The champion explored the rooms, touching soft pillows, velvet curtains, and a window that opened to the wind. She watched birds fly outside and wondered how it would feel to fly without chains. That evening, the human cooked a simple meal, sharing it with her on the balcony. He told her stories of his own world, how humans failed, struggled, but kept trying. She listened, surprised by how simple things could mean so much. As night came, she took off her armor for the first time in years, letting the heavy plates fall to the floor. The human looked away, respecting her privacy. For the first time, she felt lighter, unsure, but free. In the darkness, she whispered, thank you for giving me a choice. The human smiled softly. It was always yours. You just needed someone to remind you. That night, for the first time in her life, the champion slept without fear. The queen's secret plot, the days after the wedding, felt strange and fragile. The champion, now called a bride, wandered the palace halls with new eyes. Servants who once saluted her now looked away. Nobles whispered behind her back. Some called her a traitor. Others simply stared in awe or envy. The human, her unexpected husband, did not try to command her or force her to love him. He treated her with quiet respect, letting her find her own way. But shadows moved in the marble corridors. The queen's humiliation still burned. In secret, she gathered her most loyal advisors late at night. Around a candlelit table, she spoke in a voice sharp as ice. My champion's loss has weakened our power. I cannot accept it. The human must be sent away. My champion must return to me one way or another. The queen's spymaster bowed. As you command, Majesty. But the people saw you swear the vow. Any move against the human must look like an accident. The queen smiled, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Accidents happen all the time. Begin at once. The champion sensed the change. The air around her felt heavier. Sometimes she noticed strangers watching her from dark corner, servants who didn't speak, guards who had lingered a moment too long. One morning, she woke to find a thin blade slipped beneath her door. No note, only a cold warning. The human, too, felt uneasy. He caught servants gossiping in coded words. Supplies for their rooms went missing. Once he found a crack in their window, as if someone had tried to break in during the night. Still, he stayed calm. "We cannot run," he said gently to the champion. "If we do, the queen will win. We must face whatever comes together." The champion nodded, her jaw set. For years, she had fought for the queen without question. Now she would fight for herself and for the quiet human who had shown her kindness. That afternoon, the queen invited them both to a private dinner. The hall was cold and echoing, the food untouched. The queen smiled, but her eyes held warning. "I trust you are settling in," she said, voice sweet as honey. "But the world is dangerous. Accidents can happen, even in the palace. Hope you are careful, champion." The champion met her gaze. "Thank you, Majesty. I am always careful. And I am no longer your champion. I am my own." The queen's smile faded. She tapped her jeweled ring against the table, thinking after dinner. The couple walked the palace gardens. The air was thick with the smell of strange flowers. Suddenly, a figure leaped from the shadows, a royal guard, dagger in hand, face hidden by a mask. He struck at the human. The champion moved faster than thought. She threw herself between them, blocking the blade with her bare arm. Blood welled up, bright against her skin. The human tackled the attacker, knocking the mask away. It was one of the queen's personal guards. The champion's wound was deep, but she stood tall. "Go back to your queen," she told the guard, voice steady. "Tell her I am not afraid. I will not return to her. And if she tries again, I will tell the world the truth." The guard ran. The couple hurried back to their rooms, the champion's arm wrapped in a scarf. Later, the queen sent a messenger with gifts, healing salves, rare fruits, a letter full of empty apologies. But her meaning was clear. She would not stop until the human was gone and her champion returned. The champion spent the night awake, guarding the door. The human sat nearby, quietly sharpening a kitchen knife for defense. As dawn broke, the champion spoke softly. "I never asked for freedom. I never asked for love. But you gave me both, just by standing with me." The human replied, "I did. Nothing you couldn't have done yourself. All I did was believe you deserved more." Outside, rumors spread through the city. Some said the queen had lost her magic, that her own champion now protected a human. Young girls whispered the story, dreaming of a day when they too could choose their path. The queen's anger grew as her spies reported back. Her plans had failed, and the people's hearts were changing. But in the highest tower, the champion and her human husband were closer than ever. Their wounds were healing. Together, they planned their next move: how to survive, how to claim a life beyond the queen's shadow. Neither of them knew what the future would bring. But for the first time, both felt a new kind of hope, a hope built not on power, but on trust. Not tomorrow would be another test. Tonight, they faced the darkness together, unbroken. New legends are born as the sun rose over Valera. Its golden light spilled across the palace towers, touching every corner of the city below. But inside those ancient walls, another storm was brewing. The queen, furious that her secret plots had failed, sat in her private chamber, her face set in cold anger. The news had reached her champion and the human were still alive, even closer than before. Even worse, whispers in the city had grown into a storm. People now questioned her power. Some even dared to speak of change. She called her advisors before dawn, her voice echoing across marble floors. "This cannot continue," she said. "My champion's defiance shames me before all of Valeera. If I cannot bend her will, I will destroy her myself." But the oldest advisor spoke up. "Majesty, the people watch you closely. If you break your oath or harm your champion, you may lose more than pride. You may lose your throne." The queen's eyes narrowed. "I will not be threatened in my own palace. Prepare my personal guard. Tonight, this ends." Elsewhere in the palace, the champion and her human husband prepared for what was coming. The champion's wound had healed to a thin scar, but she wore it with pride. She had trained her whole life to obey, but now she moved with new purpose, fighting for her own future and for the quiet human who stood by her side. The city outside buzzed with rumors. Children sang songs of the human who tamed the queen's champion. Young girls whispered of freedom, and old warriors wondered if true strength was found in power or in courage. As night fell, the queen's guards closed in. Heavy boots echoed down the stone halls. The champion stood at the door, a simple wooden staff in her hand. The human, unarmed, stood beside her. The first guard burst through, sword raised. The champion met him with swift precision, using her staff to block and turn his blade aside. She did not seek to hurt, only to defend. More guards rushed in, but the human called out, "We do not wish to fight you. We only want peace." Some guards hesitated. Word had spread of the queen's cruelty. Others charged blindly. The champion and the human fought side by side, using cleverness and teamwork to hold them off. They moved as one, never backing down, never striking out in anger. Soon the palace halls were filled with shouting. Servants and nobles gathered, watching the struggle. The queen herself appeared, flanked by her loyalists, her eyes burning with fury. She pointed at her former champion. "You are nothing without me. Kneel or be cast out forever." The champion raised her head high. Her voice rang clear. "I will not kneel. I will not be your weapon any longer. You taught me to fight, but you never taught me to be free." That I learned from a human. A hush swept through the crowd. For the first time, someone had said no to the queen in public before all of Valeera. The queen stepped forward, her hand raised for a killing blow. But before she could strike, one of her own guards blocked her path. "Majesty, no more," he said. Others followed, lowering their weapons. "We will not hurt them. We have seen enough." The queen's power was broken, not by violence, but by courage and truth. Her crown slipped from her head and fell, rolling across the floor. The people gasped. The champion turned to the crowd. "You all saw what happened. I am not the queen's slave. I am my own, and so are you, if you choose." There was a moment of silence, then a cheer that shook the palace walls. That night, Valeera changed forever. The queen, defeated, was led. Away by her own guards, the champion and her human husband stood in the hall, surrounded by friends and strangers who now looked at them with hope instead of fear. No one could have guessed it would be a human quiet, clever stranger from another world who would teach Valeera the meaning of true strength. Together, he and the champion became legends. They united to worlds not with war, but with honor and trust. In the days that followed, the champion helped build a new court where no one was forced to fight, and everyone was free to choose their own path. The human, once an outsider, was celebrated as a hero and friend. And when people told their children stories of courage, freedom, and love, they spoke of the day the queen's plan backfired, and a new legend was born.